Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Short Hops with manager Kevin Hooper. Short Hops is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Wichita Wingnuts skipper questions about baseball, the Wingnuts, sports, or just life in general. This week we have an exciting program for you as the skipper gives us some information related to transactions and injuries that have been going on with the team. It's been a lot of information and stuff going on in that particular area, so it'll be interesting to see what Kevin has to tell us today. We also find out what Kevin thinks of some of the interesting new trades and transactions that have been going on in the major leagues. We get an update on what's going on with his daughter's softball. And Kevin tells us a little bit about where he thinks are some good vacation spots to go. So let's get right to Short Hops. We want to welcome back manager Kevin Hooper with us this week. Kevin, before we get started, there was an incident where a 9-year-old boy was hit by a bat at the NBC, and I just wanted to begin the show by talking a little bit about that.
Obviously, that's an issue that's close to home for us with our connection to the NBC tournament, right, being right there in Wichita and being held at our stadium. And thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Unfortunately, he was lost yesterday in a tragic accident that has been all over the news, I know, nationwide. And just a very unfortunate incident. And not only do our thoughts and prayers go out to the little boy's family, but also all the players on that Liberal team and coaches and their families too, just because it's been such a tragic deal. And like I said, such a sad situation to see that happen.
It is a real tragedy, and we want to not make light of the circumstance at all, but we want to continue on with our show, just keeping in mind that we ask that all of you remember this family as we move forward here.
Absolutely.
Turning to our show this week, Kevin, I wanted to address, first of all, with you, injuries that you've had. John Link and Jason Van Skyke, where are we at with them?
Yeah, we're having a tough go here. It's been a crazy year for us. Link obviously had the elbow issue. He ends up throwing 2 innings there in Laredo and then goes down. And fortunately he cleared waivers and we were able to get him off of our roster and open up some cap money and a veteran spot in case we need it. And he's just back home rehabbing throughout this week while we're up here in Canada, and wishing him the best, and I think things are going well. So hopefully, here at some point down the road, it's going to be a situation where we're going to get him back. It's going to be something we're not going to rush him. I want him ready to go for the rest of the season. I don't want him to make another start and this happen again. So we're going to take our time with that. Van Skyke's been battling some shoulder stuff. I took it upon myself after his last start to give him another extra day in between starts. So instead of throwing tomorrow, which would be his scheduled day, he'll make a start on Wednesday, that first day in Quebec. And Charlie Lowell, he's getting closer and closer. It might be a situation when we get back where he could go to the bullpen and help us out down there. Frankie Reed's another one where he felt something in his back a week ago Sunday in Laredo, that last game we played there, and it's kind of moved into his oblique, and that's never a good situation. We actually tried to pitch him yesterday after being off for a week, and it didn't go so well. He wasn't feeling the best, so he ended up walking those 2 guys, and we got him out of there. So a lot of stuff going on. Jace Ray's battling some stuff too. TJ's battling a heel issue that kind of flares up any given night. And we're battling some stuff right now, but we're also battling through it. And these guys know we got to do everything we can to get them out on that field every night.
I think fans may not realize that when you're 1,500 miles away from your home ballpark, it's a little more difficult to come up with a replacement for somebody.
It absolutely is. And Bencomo and Louis Hernandez couldn't get across the border, so they're back home. So we're actually here with 20 bodies right now trying to get through this. So we've made some new additions also that I know we plan on talk about next with Jerry Gonzalez, who's been playing second base. Eddie Medina, a young starter. We obviously need a starter to make 2 starts during this trip in the Link spot. And Eddie threw a tremendous game his first outing Saturday night here in Ottawa. A guy like Tyler Heil, who is a guy, he's kind of a 2-way guy. He can play some multiple positions, and he can also get off the mound if necessary. So we felt like that was a good addition for us just in case with the pitching-wise. And then adding a guy like Aydin Nazario, another left-handed, dominant left-hander who was doing great in Double-A. That was a shocker that he got released, and we kind of jumped on that opportunity to bring him on board also.
Nazario's looked actually really, really good for you guys since you've been able to start using him out of your bullpen, too.
Yeah, he just hit a little bump yesterday. Like I said, Reed walked the 2 guys, and then Naz came in. and he walked 2 guys in a row also. He walked 4 straight, and then we kind of let him back in that game. It was a 5-1 ball game, and we talk about those situations all the time where we got to add on runs throughout the game because we've used Dakota a lot lately in those close situations, and we had to use him again yesterday.
Are you thinking that Medina will travel back with you to Wichita, or just don't know really his status at the moment?
Yeah, I really don't know the status on a lot of these guys. It's going to be a work in progress here, this roster, as we finish up this Canadian trip and get back home, as we're going to try to do some things to the roster and get this thing kind of try to get it set to where we need it by the time we're done. So we'll figure all this out. Like I always talk about, it's always a puzzle and a work in progress.
Really nice start last night from Scott Richmond for you. That had to kind of boost the morale of the team.
Absolutely. He's one of our horses, no doubt about it. He's a guy that he was going to go out there and give us everything we got. He'll tell you, probably yesterday he didn't have his best stuff. It was an early game, but those guys that are so good at what they do and their craft, a guy like him who's so smart, even when they don't have their best stuff, they find a way to get through it and compete, and he threw a gem once again.
So let's get to our questions from this week. How was it to meet Hal Lanier, a World Series manager, or actually coach at the time, but has been to the playoffs with several major league teams? What was your experience with that?
Oh, it was great. I've heard many things about Hal, and all good, and I had never come across him yet. And very pleasure of mine to finally meet him at home plate that first night here, and then we chatted a little bit yesterday before the game by the cage when we got off the bus. So, honor, a pleasure, and pretty fortunate to be on the same field with a guy like that.
Lane from Pittsburgh wants to know: do you watch the status of guys who went to Mexico from the team, like Capra, Navarez, and Cleveland?
Absolutely. We keep an eye on all of our guys, whether it's Mexico or guys that get signed in affiliated ball. At least once a week, I'm checking up on those guys, seeing how they're doing. I actually converse with those guys in Mexico and check on them all, and even in affiliated ball, and see how they're doing, and let them know we're here if they need us for anything. But, especially those 3 guys, not knowing what's going to happen with them. They're both on the verge. I know Cap and Navarez are in 3rd place. I know Cleve's in 4th place. So it's going to be a race here to see if they can get into the playoffs here these next couple weeks.
Carl from Kansas City wonders, with the Saints playing so well, are you worried that they have a shot at your record from last season for wins?
I don't know if worried's the word. We keep a close eye on it for sure, because that's a record that I think many people thought weren't going to be broken for quite some time. And they're on pace to beat it, that's for sure. It's been a phenomenal season for George and what he's done up there. I've got a lot of respect for George, and we've got a good relationship, and I obviously wish him nothing but the best. And if it's broken, it's broken. Records are meant to be broken, as I always say. So, last year was a season that we're never going to forget, and it was something special. And those 73 wins will, like I said, even if they do break the record, we'll never forget what we accomplished last year.
Mike from Wichita notices that Sioux City has been stealing a lot of bases this season, and are they taking a page out of the Kevin Hooper playbook?
Yeah, I don't know if it's my playbook or what their idea was of getting those guys who can really run and put this pressure on the defense. I think that we've been successful in the past doing it. And, I'm going to look at the same thing from other teams that are successful and what their theory is and how they go about it. And, as a manager, you try to mix and match sometimes. And if it isn't working, maybe you try another way to get things going. And it looks like that they've done that this year. They've added a lot of speed to their lineup, and they're stealing a lot of bases.
Well, when you see success from one team, that's kind of the model to follow, I would assume.
Oh.
Steve from Oklahoma City has kind of a lengthy question. So, as a manager, do you ever hope that there are teams that you would not face in the playoffs? I always hear that a team will wish that they wind up with Team A as their opponent as opposed to Team B. Isn't facing the toughest competition part of the glory of winning it all?
Absolutely. To win it all, you got to beat the best, as far as I'm concerned. Whether you play them in the first round or that second championship round, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you got to beat everybody to win the whole thing. So to me, honestly, it doesn't matter. For us, it's different though, because let's say the way it worked out right now, if the season ended today, it looks like us winning our division, Kansas City, the wild card, and then you have St. Paul and Sioux City. And St. Paul and Sioux City by far have the 2 best records. Well, because of geographical reasons, they would match up in the first round, and we would play Kansas City, who's the wild card. So, it's all geographical in our league, and so the chances of us playing St. Paul in the first round are slim to none, just because of the geographical nature of things. So, if anything, it would be either Laredo, a Joplin, a Kansas City, and then the way Winnipeg's playing, they're making a pretty good run here. Obviously, if they would happen to get into that wild card as of the end of this thing and it stayed the same, then you're looking at Winnipeg would play St. Paul and we'd play a team like Sioux City. So it's all, like I said, geographical the way it works in our league, and honestly, it doesn't matter to me who we would face because you got to beat them all.
Stan from Royal hears you talk about trades on the show all the time and wants to know how trades come about in your league.
It's just word of mouth. We have revocable waivers and we have irrevocable waivers. A lot of times guys will put guys on revocable waivers just to kind of fish them. It's kind of just throwing them out there, maybe getting a feel from teams that might be interested, and then you try to work a trade out that way. A lot of times with me, if we're wanting to move a guy, I'll get word out by an email or text to all the managers, just seeing if there's any interest. So just kind of word of mouth or a text or email, getting it out there that you're interested in moving a guy and kind of weighing your options of what you could get in return.
Is the reverse true then as well, that if you were looking, let's say for a reliever, would you just start contacting people to ask if they have somebody available, or do you have somebody in mind you're looking at before you start that process?
I think it works both ways. Yeah, if I ever need, an arm, a bullpen arm, you might send a feeler out to somebody and just say, hey, I'm looking for a bullpen arm if you're interested in moving anybody or something like that. So, yeah, it kind of works both ways. If there is a need, you can get word out also.
I noticed, too, that there seems to be, while there are some trades that go on, you've made a trade this season, for example, with Grand Prairie and Laredo. Is there, the Frontier League, the Atlantic League seem to be two of the bigger leagues that teams trade with. Is that, do you generally look at them as better trading partners for your organization?
Well, if you can get something, yeah. The problem is with the Frontier and the Atlantic League is a guy has to clear waivers in our league first. So if you put a guy on revocable waivers and someone claims him, you can't trade him outside of our league. Does that make sense?
Yeah, interesting.
So let's say like a Dakota Watts, for example, our closer. There's no way he would clear waivers. So there's no way you could trade a guy like that to the Atlantic League or the Frontier League because he's not going to make it out of our league.
Oh, actually, so they've got to clear out of the league through waivers first before you can even move
yes.
them
to it. During the season.
Okay, during the season. Okay.
That's just during the season. Yeah, in the off season you can trade them to whoever, but during the season they have to clear waivers throughout our league in order to go to another league.
You brought in a couple of guys. I'm trying to think of the left-handed starter that you had for the last couple of weeks of the season. Polano, was that right? Last season.
Oh, the righty, Austin Polanco.
Yeah, Polanco. Okay. Now, would he have had to clear waivers out of the league he was coming to get to, or even in your league clear waivers?
No. Other leagues don't work that way. So we can get a guy from another league. They don't have to really clear waivers in their league. So we can get a guy from one of those leagues, no problem. It's just getting a guy to one of those leagues is where the issue comes about.
Gotcha. Okay, excellent. I learned a little stuff today. Okay. Keith from Hayesville asks, is Abel Nieves going to be back with the Wingnuts this season? He seems to be the perfect guy for the stretch run for you.
No, probably not going to happen this year just because he ended up in Laredo, and I know that they wouldn't move him, but he's actually in Mexico right now anyways. But I don't think their teams doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs, so it looks like August 14th, 15th, somewhere around there, he should be back with Laredo.
Okay. Bill from Wichita wants to know what you recommend as a good vacation spot. He wants to take his family someplace and wants to know if you have some good suggestions for him.
Well, Bill, a lot of times I have that same question for people. Unfortunately, we don't get to go on too many vacations, obviously, just because of what I'm tied up doing during the summer. And, my kids are getting to the age where we're getting close to planning that Disneyland, Disney World trip for the first time. So we're looking forward to that. I've always wanted to go, down to the Gulf Shores, down south in the Alabama area there, and I've heard nothing but great things about that. Hilton Head, South Carolina, we went there for our honeymoon, and I love that. So I like anywhere down south. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Denver area. I know my kids really want to go skiing here soon too, so that might be a destiny for us. But really, there's nowhere. I grew up going to Branson, Missouri all the time. It's like a huge carnival down there. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. Stewart, our city, there's a bunch of shows. So my recommendation, just from experience, would be Branson, Missouri. Because, and I'm sure Bill, being a Midwest guy, if he is in Wichita, they've probably been there before. But I'd say there's a lot of spots around this country that I want to go to, that I would always like to go to. So, tough question. I think there's too many places that I could mention.
Mary from Wichita notices that there have been a lot of dust-ups, as her word is, with the Kansas City Royals of late. There's always a bench-clearing brawl, it seems like, to her. When does this just look childish?
Yeah, yesterday was crazy. I've seen that highlight a couple of times of what went down and all that. I don't know. I mean, it's just a lot of times as grown men getting their feelings hurt, as far as I'm concerned. We tell our pitchers, you got to throw in off the plate. You got to make guys uncomfortable. That doesn't mean we're going to hit guys or throw at guys. You have to be able to pitch in, whether it's here or in the big leagues, and that's part of the game. And I think some guys just get their feelings hurt and get a little insensitive with things, and it escalates into a big, big situation. So it's going to happen. It's baseball. Part of the game. Obviously, if a guy gets hit and they think it was on purpose, then retaliation is going to come sooner than later, and that happened yesterday.
As a hitter, aren't you kind of aware when somebody's intentionally throwing at you? Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah, you have a feeling, absolutely, of whether you think it's intentional or not. Obviously, if a guy throws one and he misses you, and then he throws another one and you get hit, come on. I mean, you can't say that wasn't intentional. So, I don't, like I said, I think that there's a feeling all the time as a hitter when you know that it's intentional or whether it wasn't.
Sammy from Wichita asks, have you seen the Mookie Betts play? Come on, that's a catch. Wouldn't you agree? I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I think I did. The one where he fell over the wall?
Yes, that's the play.
Yes. Yeah, and the ruling on that's crazy. I think you have to kind of draw a line straight up from the fence, and if he catches it before that, then it ends up being a catch. What a play, first of all. And then that was the one where he hit the ground and the ball ended up coming out, correct?
Yeah, he fell over the fence, and as he's going to the ground, the ball pops out of his glove on the other side of the fence. But he took like 2 steps before he ran over the fence, with the ball in his hand, that is.
Right, and that's what I think. It's just like a guy making a running grab, and he takes 2 steps after it happens. So, yeah, I think that probably should have been a catch. I guess we're turning in maybe to like the NFL rule. You got to go to the ground completing the catch or something. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do. But I just saw it briefly one time. I think it was just on like a top 10 highlight. So I haven't really bared down on it. I just saw it briefly. But what a catch. Obviously, they said it wasn't a catch, but in my mind, that's definitely a catch.
It is a lot like that NFL Calvin Johnson rule or whatever that is out there. So
yeah, exactly, Calvin Johnson rule. Yeah.
Hugo from Salinas wonders, Troy Tulowitzki got traded to the Blue Jays. This is one of the 5 best players in the game with a contract till 2020. How does a guy like that get dealt?
Well, it's a situation you're pretty happy if you're the Blue Jays. What a player. And in that first game he had up there in Toronto, he goes 3 for 5 with a homer and double. Had a tremendous game. So I'm not sure. That's the business side of it, I guess. And I guess Colorado felt like they got enough in return to move a guy like that. But Tulo's the face of that franchise there in Colorado. And, that's the side a lot of people, I think, don't understand is the business side. And obviously me being in this chair doing what I do now, I understand that side a lot more. But there's a lot more involved sometimes with that. But, it's up to each and every organization to make those moves and decide who they want to move and who they want to keep. And it's just weird seeing a guy like that out of that uniform because he's been in a Rockies uniform his whole career.
Peter from Kansas City wonders if you liked the moves the Royals made before the trade deadline.
I did. They obviously needed a starting pitcher. That was no question. It was just a matter of who they were going to get. And to get Cueto, that's a pretty big move, and to get a guy like that, and Ben Zobrist. I've always been a fan of Ben. I used to play against Ben back in the day, and just a guy like that who can play all over the field, multiple positions every day. You can move him around and line up and put him wherever defensively. And I do. I like what they've done, and I think it was, like I said, there was no question they needed a starting pitcher, and they got a good one.
Frustrated guy asks, I have bought a new glove each of the last 3 years and still can't get the thing broken in correctly. How do you do this?
Oh, for me, it was always just playing catch with the glove and trying to get it broken in how you want. Just playing catch over and over and over again, having that ball hit that glove, squeezing it how you want, and breaking it in however you can. I know a lot of people put a ball in it and tie it up with like a band or a rope or something, and try to break it in that way. There's always some conditioners out there that you can use. It's not an easy thing, frustrated guy, to break in a glove, that's for sure. So I think the answer would be try not to let it frustrate you, because it's kind of an art to break in a glove. It's not easy as a lot of people think, especially a guy like me being an infielder, and my glove was my bread and butter, and that was a pretty special piece of my artillery, and it took a lot of pride in the way you broke it in and how you handled it. So don't get frustrated with it, and just keep working it. Keep playing catch. They also make those wooden sticks that have like a wood ball on the end with a handle, and you can pound it into the glove, so that might be an option also.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that. Okay. Carlo from Wichita would like to know, what's the difference between a splitter and a forkball?
You know what? I don't think there is a huge difference. I haven't seen anybody in quite a few years call a pitch a forkball, or that they throw a forkball. So I'm not a pitching guy, and I've never had a guy that's thrown a forkball. It's always been a splitter. So I think you're pretty much talking about the same thing, just maybe a little different term. And maybe one guy likes to call it a forkball, but it's really a splitter. I mean, that happens at times. It's like Capper throws that Vulcan changeup. Well, somebody could call that a splitter, but it's really a changeup, he calls it. So, I think it's just opinion, what someone thinks that they're throwing, maybe a splitter or a forkball, and maybe just call it a different thing, just depending on who you are. But I don't think, like I said, I've never really dealt with a guy that's thrown a forkball, so I'm not sure what the difference might be, or if there is even a difference at all.
I think the last guy I actually heard who used technically a forkball was Dave Stewart. Does that sound about right?
Well, and there you go. I mean, that's a while ago, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we've gotten away from forkball, and everybody's just calling it a splitter now. So I think it's the same pitch, just different terms now that we're using.
Interesting. As our last question for this week, Sally from Wichita has heard you talk a lot about your daughters playing softball this summer, and she just wants to know how their teams are doing.
They've done great. They actually ended their seasons probably about 3 weeks ago now. My wife, as I talk about, turned into a single mom in the summertime, me being so busy, because the girls were literally playing pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, every night of the week. So she was on the run, and bless her heart, it was a busy summer for her, so I think she was ready for the break when it was all said and done. But it's something that the two of us love watching our daughters do, because they've got a passion for it, especially my oldest. She loves it, and it's her favorite thing to do, and we're always out in the front yard working on it, or wherever we're at, playing catch, and wanting Daddy to throw to her. But they had great summers. They both played really well and had good teams that they were on, and just had a lot of fun. And at that age, winning and losing, as far as me being a father, isn't important at all. Unfortunately, to some other parents and even coaches, it's a little more important than I think it should be. They put an emphasis on it. But as long as she's having fun and learning the game, that's all I can ask for as a dad.
I would think the emphasis should really just be on the progress of the kids. That what your daughters are 7 and 10. Is that what I remember?
Yeah, 7 and 10. Yes, that's correct. Yep. No, and I agree, Robert. It should all be about them having fun, because they are children and they're young. And, I told my 10-year-old one time she wasn't swinging the bat real well and struck out a couple times, and I said, "Honey, you've got plenty of years to worry about striking out. I don't want you ever worrying about that right now. I want you to have fun and just try to hit the ball the best you can, and that's all that matters, having fun learning the game, and I think there's a commitment to the coaches that needs to be keeping it that way, keeping it fun for the kids and teaching them, just learning the game, continuing to learn the game, and win, lose, or draw, staying positive and having a good time with it.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us again this week, Kevin.
Robert, thanks as always. Look forward to next week.
All right. Enjoy, sir.
Take care.
We want to thank manager Kevin Hooper for joining us here on Short Hops this week. If you'd like to ask the Wichita Wingnuts skipper your own questions, please send them to us at askkevin@minorleaguesportsreport.com. That's askkevin@minorleaguesportsreport.com. During today's program, Kevin mentioned about Little Kaiser that had been killed during the NBC World Series in Wichita this past weekend. Our prayers, as Kevin said, go out to the family during this tragic time. And if we have any information next week related to a charity or a donation that they're getting for the family, we will be happy to let you know about that. This is a very sad time, and we're thankful that there's a great community rallying around this family. We thank you for joining us here in Short Hops this week. I am Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. We look